Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to our Christmas episode of Bags of Action. My name's Steve, and with me as always is my co-host Pete.
Hello. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, 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 holy Christmas and stuff.
Holy Christmas.
Holy holidays.
Other Christmases are available.
Absolutely. This episode, we are talking about the classic film from 1986 called Iron Eagle. I had never heard of it.
Wow.
I had never seen it before. I was not familiar with the franchise that spun out of this film.
Where were you in the 80s?
Watching Top Gun.
Well, this came out first because I did check afterwards. So I think you find Top Gun stole all its ideas from this film.
Okay, so you've seen this a few times?
I saw this back in the day. So it came out in 86. I think I saw it. That's back in the day we used to have a delay. So it'd been out in the States in 86, probably out in the UK in 87 on VHS or Betamax by about 88. So probably about 2 years after it came out. I think I might have owned a copy at the time as well. So yeah, you're right. It did create a franchise. There are 4 Iron Eagle films.
Wow.
3 of which were directed by the same person who directed this, which is Sidney J. Furie. He directed Iron Eagle 2, Iron Eagle 4, and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh, so he didn't do Iron Eagle. Oh, all right, who did Iron
He
Eagle?
did 3. I don't know why he didn't do 3. But he didn't
But they brought him back for 4.
Yeah, for 4.
Maybe 3 was a dud, so they brought him back.
And then he's done lots of straight-to-video stuff that I've never heard of since. And it's written by Sidney J. Furie and somebody called Kevin Elders, who's written things like Ravenhawk and Jane Doe.
I've not heard of them either.
But the cast is interesting. The most interesting person, of course, I would say is Louis Gossett Jr.
Yes.
From Officer and Gentleman, Enemy Mine, Midnight Sting, one of my favourites. He's in all 4. So the Jason Gedrick, who's the kind of lead in this, who's been in a ridiculous amount of TV. Dexter, the Lethal Weapon TV show, Bosch, Justified, loads of stuff. He's not in the others. It's basically a different person in each of the 4 films. The only constant is Louis Gossett Jr.'s character, Chappie. So if you imagine, because in The Karate Kid, you had Daniel San in the first 3, but not in the 4th one. But imagine if it was just Mr. Miyagi across all 4 movies. That's the kind of the equivalent. And there's lots of links to Karate Kid, lots and lots and lots of links, which is a film from 2 years before, which I think was the inspiration for this film in many, many ways.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
The other actor of note, of course, is the wonderful English actor, David Suchet, playing the Minister of Defence for an unnamed Middle Eastern country as the enemy in this film.
Yes. Most recently seen in his Dark Materials, I believe.
If you say so. I mean, I'm just started season 2, so I'm a little behind. But yes, you're quite right. He's in season 2 of his Dark Materials. There's a voice of somebody.
And he's in what's been in Executive Decision with Seagal,
Poirot,
Russell,
for 15 years.
Yeah. There's another bit of a legendary name. Tim Thomerson is in this, playing the father. He's Near Dark, Air America, but most famous for the Trancers films.
I've not seen them.
Again, B movies, sci-fi B movies across the 80s as well.
Wow, okay.
Then you've got 2 of the cast of Karate Kid are in this film.
Go on.
You've got Larry B. Scott, who is one of the Cobra Kai members. And you've also got Robin Packer, who is another of the Cobra Kai members, but he's a more he's one of the ones that's come back in Cobra Kai, the series.
Interesting.
Well. The one who gets ill, I think.
Right.
So that's not too much of a spoiler. So there's 2 of them in it, which makes the links to the TV show, very meta.
Yeah, yes, very meta indeed.
Yeah. And you've got Jerry Levine from Teen Wolf, and then loads of people you go, I think I know them from something else in the 80s, but I can't remember what.
Yeah.
Pretty much across the whole cast, really.
So this film is an odd mix. Having never seen it before, it felt a little bit like The Goonies meets Top Gun. Obviously, we said that came after, but from watching it in 2020, so it's kind of The Goonies meets Top Gun meets MacGyver kind of thing.
Meets American Air Force recruitment film.
Yeah, it's an odd.
I think watching it as a teenager, I was like, "This is so cool! You can do all these things, even though you're a teenager in America. Wow!" And then you watch it now as an old person with a teenage child, and you go, "I don't buy any of this," because you've got loads of things you've seen in other teen movies. You've got a plane versus a motorcycle race at the start, which is very similar to like Lost Boys or Grease. I think there's a car race in that. There's the party for the prom. There's a graduation. It's almost like someone's got like the tick list of teen movie tropes.
Yes,
is working their way through them all.
Yeah, tick tick tick.
But then it's proper full on military stuff as well. Although it is very kind of. It's not the most serious film in the world, but it's kind of lots of people die, lots of people get killed. There's lots of weaponry used and stuff, and it's. I don't think you wouldn't get that now. So it is a really weird kind of juxtaposition. Really, it's like it's like Footloose with planes.
Yeah, it's not like the A-Team where you see them crawl out of the planes afterwards after being shot out of the sky.
No, it really isn't.
There's none of that. There's none of that. So we should say what the story is about, really.
We should. It's yeah. So Doug, that great young person's name, Doug. His father is a pilot, and he's shot down over the unnamed Middle Eastern country.
Well, there's kind of a quarrel between, they say they're in international waters and it's their territory, whereas this other country in the Middle East, which is a made-up country, says, no, this is our land, you're in our territory. So his father and one other plane get into a dogfight with numerous MiGs, and his father tells the other pilot to bug out, just go, because his plane was, I think, clipped. He'd already taken out a couple of them at this point, but he was seriously outnumbered, and obviously they capture him, and then there's a whole political thing about, was he actually over the territory and blah blah blah, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they didn't the US set a 10-mile limit. Yeah, and the other country set a 120-mile limit. That's not good. I'm not the world's best mathematician, but that isn't going to work out.
No, not is the flight times either that they have from America to this Middle Eastern country. But we'll not cloud that anyway. Let's not do that.
No, that's true. So it's interesting, I guess, you going into this film completely cold. Yep. So one of the reasons we decided to watch this, because it has literally nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas. No Shane Black in this at all.
No,
it's because we've both been enjoying Cobra Kai, and I think a lot more people have watched that. We both watched it on YouTube and loved it, and then since then it's come out on Netflix this year and been a massive hit second time round.
Yep.
The third series is out very early in January, I believe. A trailer's already been out for that, so which carries on the Karate Kid story. And in that show, Johnny talks about Iron Eagle being his favourite film, and I think he watches scenes from it in one of the episodes.
Yes.
Which makes it, like you said, very meta when two of the cast of Karate Kid, one of whom has appeared in Cobra Kai, are in the film. And I do wonder if it is a little bit of a nudge of like, Karate Kid was so successful that other people were like, what can we do? What can we do? Now, I assumed this came out after Top Gun, and I thought someone went, let's do to Top Gun what Karate Kid did to Rocky. Let's take the core concept and make it about teenagers. That would work.
Yeah.
But the fact that this came out first means that, I guess, isn't the case. It's I think in a way, like Johnny is in Cobra Kai is very much like in this mindset that everything was better in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I was in that mindset when I suggested that we watch this film.
Are you saying you didn't enjoy this film, Pete?
I don't want to spoil because we haven't got to the end yet, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did when I was 13.
Which is fair. Yeah. I kept having to think about this and say, okay, if I was watching this when I was a teenager, I would think this was the coolest thing ever, because a bunch of teenagers, most of whom are nameless, that we've never met before, suddenly turn up in the film, outwit everybody on the flight, the whole Air Force base, and manage to get like 2 jets fully loaded up with as many weapons and as many rounds as they can carry, get them refueled, do all of that, outwit everybody, and mount this impressive rescue. And I just thought, if I was a teenager watching it, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I'm a kid. I can do anything. Now I'm thinking, you nearly died at the beginning of the film. There's no way ever getting a plane or on a bike again, grounded for life. And wow, it makes everyone look really incompetent and inept.
Yeah, and I think, there were lots of films, I guess, in the 80s, like, what's that? I've completely forgotten the one now about the nuclear warfare.
War Games.
War Games. There were lots of films, I guess, where youngsters could take on authority. And I guess it fits in that. I think, but you do, as you sit and watch it with like an analytical mind, you're like, okay, yeah, a lot of people, and I get it. It's a town where there's an Air Force base and the Air Force base kids, which is quite a good rivalry between them and like the town kids are quite.
Yeah,
I come from a garrison town myself, and I remember what that used to be like. And that kind of made, and that was quite a nice way to set it up. But then once you go, oh, that's cool. You can call in favors, and you can have a little go on the simulator, and this person will lend him something, and it's like, oh, hang on, he's lending. Well, hang on. Bombs? I don't. That's the bit where I was like, oh, I don't remember. I in my head, they just kind of saw 2 planes on the runway and just jumped in them and flew off.
Right.
I completely forgot that in some kind of get along gang kind of way, that Chappie had this like backroom staff of kids that were basically helping him put the mission together. That completely.
It was really weird. Because we got introduced to him and his 2 mates, Doug and his 2 best chums, and the whole race, and his girlfriends. That's 4 of them. And I thought, okay, they're the 4 core kind of characters. And then when they go to get all the information, suddenly there's this kid with glasses that's dad works in the intelligence thing and kind of hacks the computer. This other kid turns up and starts doing something else. Some of the other ones are throwing like firecrackers in and scaring people. Then his younger brother, which we have seen, is also helping out. But then this other girl turns up. And I'm like, where did she come from? Who's she? Why is there like 10 of them now suddenly out of nowhere?
It's because the first rule of Flight Club, you don't talk about Flight
Club. God.
Sorry. But they are all part of this Flight Club group. But you're right. It does at one point, because this kid just walks over and goes, my dad has been saying this. And you're like, who's this exposition?
Who are you and who's your dad?
Who's the exposition child? Where did he come from? And then there's like, oh, there's another exposition child. There's a whole group of exposition children.
Yep.
And they kind of, I don't know. I think I might have seen the second one, but I haven't seen the 3rd and 4th. Maybe that should be our January project. We should watch them all, or not. Because if it's just Chappie and the others, then it's a bit weird. He's just randomly starting to train teenage pilots, which seems, I don't know. I'd be ringing somebody about that. But if it was the same flight club with different members of that, then I still wouldn't really buy it, because it's that age-old thing. It's a bit like Die Hard. You get this once-in-a-lifetime situation that you have to deal with.
Yep.
And then they decide to make more films and have to keep putting you in harm's way. So I guess by having different people in it, it gets away from that.
Mm.
I mean, it's interesting seeing Louis Gossett Jr. in this film, because he massively elevates the movie compared to everyone else in it.
It's true.
Because he's like a proper actor. And I guess, Officer and Gentleman, he'd already done a similar kind of angry mentor with a heart of gold underneath kind of thing before, which I guess people had seen him do previously.
Yeah. It was a weird setup at the beginning, especially that there's so much focus on Doug and, making him look like a cool pilot, and which you get, given what he does later on, that's fine. But the film is like 2 hours long, I think.
Yeah.
It's quite long for a film in the 80s. I know it's a kid's action film, essentially, but I kept thinking, wow, this is long. This is a really long film.
It's long for this kind of film because you're kind of like, well, they haven't done. But then it's long, but then the actual timeline in the film is ridiculously short because it's like, your dad's been kidnapped. Can we go and get him? No, not really. I'll go on then. Right, You'll have one go in a plane today and then we'll go tomorrow.
They have 5 days, but they spend 4 days practicing, not flying, gathering intel. He's running whilst he's reading out readouts to him off a printout.
And I think it does that thing, which I think films in the mid-'80s did a lot, which was like, there are these computers. Who will know how to work them? Only the children.
Yep.
Because it was like, there's all this. It almost felt like they were so good at computers, they could work out more than like the Ministry of Defence. Which is very odd. One thing I will say is that Chappie does his thinking the same way I do, which is either dancing around, running, or in the shower. That's how I problem solve. So I respected that. Although his dancing scene comes from nowhere. He's like this stoic kind of military figure, and you're a bit intimidated by him.
Yes.
And then he goes around to see him, and he just starts dancing. But
that was odd.
Icebreaker.
It's also weird because he likes music, he likes dancing, and yet as soon as Doug puts his music on, he's turn that off, turn that racket off. I'm like, hang on, we didn't say that when you were dancing around to your jukebox, mate, at home.
He likes to be in charge of the playlist. That's what it is.
That's it. Yeah, he doesn't like kids' music.
No, like Queen.
At one point he says, "Oh, I like that. This is more like it." When he puts Queen on,
you see.
You like that one tune, the rest he didn't like,
And it's an interesting thing because, like, Queen had done Flash Gordon's soundtrack, which does have a soundtrack. You can buy the soundtrack to that film. They then did the music for Highlander, which never got a soundtrack. But they instead put out an album, which is, sorry, Max, and I say the word album incorrectly according to everyone who knows me. I say it like it's got an E instead of an A, but never mind. So they put out a record, a long player, called It's a Kind of Magic.
Yes.
And now all the songs from Highlander are on that album, and so are some other songs, one of which is One Vision, which is the kind of lead song in this film. So I think as well, I was like, watching this as a kid, I was like, oh, Queen, Flash Gordon, Queen, Highlander, oh, Queen, Iron Eagle. And I think, if it wasn't for this film, Guardians of the Galaxy wouldn't have had a cassette in it. That's where the idea of a cassette came from in a film when you're flying an aircraft.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, yes. I will. Well, next time I see James Gunn, I will check. But I'm pretty confident. I can't see how the two things can't be linked.
No, there's no other way they could have been connected.
No, none.
Nope.
Even the dance at the start of Guardians of the Galaxy is a little bit like Chappie. The more I think about it, the more I think that might be a remake.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So I will say, once they actually went on the mission, once the film kicked off and they got away from the base and they realized that they'd broken the rules and they started flying and stuff, that was quite exciting. That was quite tense. There were a lot of plywood planes being blown up, used over and over, similar shots, and the old...
bit like Airwolf.
Yeah, the Airwolf thing of shoot it from different angles, blow up the plane, and therefore you can use the same shot about 10 times, which is fine. I wouldn't have noticed it back then. I would have thought, yeah, splash another bad guy, yeah, which is what Doug says, which is what you're supposed to think, really. I mean, this film's got a 15 rating. I think it could be like a PG because there's never any blood. And people are dying and there's flames and all the rest of it, but you never actually see them dying. They're never crawling around. The planes blow up. That's it. People blow up on the cockpit and then they blow up on the runway, but they're they're just nameless bad guys.
You don't see any of the torture of his father either. You just see him sat looking unhappy and being, oh, you've done well to not give up your secrets.
Yes.
But they don't actually, they don't Jack Bauer on him or anything.
No, they don't, and they don't do the little weapon thing with the electricity and water
either.
No, it's very sort of PG friendly, very, they've cut out anything that's a bit nasty. I mean, the only bad thing is that his dad gets shot, and you see him get shot, and you think that he's dead, but then he gets up and he's totally fine. So, and he helps fly the plane back home and that kind of thing. So the action was good. When it got to the action and they started flying and he went on the mission by himself, I liked that. I liked the fact that Chappie thought ahead and had planned for every eventuality, and he'd said, here, have this tape, but only play it if things go wrong. And he knew that the two of them were going on a mission that was incredibly dangerous, extremely high risk, and yet he knew that Doug would need something to get him through, something, and say, look, you're probably panicking about now. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to think carefully, remember everything that we've done. So that was good. That was like a nice twist. And he kept talking to Chappie, even though Chappie wasn't there anymore, as if he could hear him, and then he'd play the tape again. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I think, again, this is me, typical me. It was a bit undone by the fact that Chappie was okay. But then you couldn't have had the numerous sequels.
No.
But I think it'd have had more weight if, he lost his mentor figure but got his father back. But again, it's not that kind of film.
No, it's a kid's 80s friendly family film, really. It's not on par with the Goonies in terms of quality, but it's that kind of level where bad stuff happens, but it's not really bad.
Yeah.
Nobody really gets hurt, apart from the only named pilot who dies is David Suchet's character, the Minister of Defense.
Yes, who also just so happens to also be a pilot.
Well, yes, he says that at one point.
Yeah.
And there again, the fact that all of those pilots were essentially outwitted by a 15-year-old who's, been flying, as he has, and he's done lots of hours in the simulator, as he said, and he's been up and with his dad a few times, which you saw in a flashback at one point. But really, but you're not supposed to poke at the story too much.
No, I'm assuming that they come from the nature rather than nurture school. And I think that he genetically is a good pilot because his father was a good pilot.
Yeah, let's say that. Let's say that. It was an odd film. I think if I'd watched it when I was much younger, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Watching it now, it was kind of neither fish nor fowl for me. It was just somewhere between. It wasn't too squeaky to be a kid's film because there's some weird bits, and then if it was just going to be a really serious film, all the stuff at the start and all the stuff with his friends, I don't know. It just was a really peculiar film. Yeah,
I think looking at it again now as well, it kind of the mentor-mentee relationship was never quite strong enough until they were in the air, because he had so many people around him, and because he did give him a hard time, but not for very long. And then he was kind of like, you guys are the best backroom staff I've ever had. And it just, I don't know.
Yeah, that felt forced and weird. Yeah. I almost wished that what had happened was, his dad's got shot down over enemy territory, but he's missing and they can't find him. And Doug didn't get into the academy, but they're worried about his dad. But then Chappie's like, well, if you want to get in the academy, I'll train you. And it has him being trained over several months. And then maybe after a couple of months, the enemy actually finds his dad and then captures him. And then word gets back to him of, oh, they've found him. And then he's able to then convince Chappie to say, look, we should go and get him after they've been training for several months. And you've built up a rapport between the two of them. You've had longer time, not on screen, but kind of by pacing it out to say that they've been doing this for months. Maybe his dad's got a brilliant comedy beard, having been in the wild for months when he's recovered and taken into the prison. And then, all this kind of stuff. And then they go and rescue him. That I could have believed a bit, but this kind of 5 days turnaround thing.
Yeah, and also along similar lines, at the start they say, why aren't you going? He's like wants to know why they aren't going to get his dad, and that typical kind of teenager impatience, but it's my dad. It's like, well, there's potentially a diplomatic incident here, like a war. Is going to happen off the back of what we do next, so we might have to sacrifice your dad to keep peace. But the action that they took definitely didn't help from a diplomacy point of view. Now, I appreciate it gets swept under the carpet at the end, and it's kind of all okay. But like as soon as they start, like they blow up an oil field as a threat, like we're going to blow up this oil field, then they blow it up, and I'm like, well, if you've actually done it, then you've given away the one card you hold, which is you could destroy their oil field, but you've done it now. That's the point where I'd have shot his dad if I was them.
All right, boom, you're dead. Bye.
Well, it's just no. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got this situation that it's. I mean, that's a big deal. The action that they took was actually, like, again, as a kid, I'm like, oh, that's cool. He got his dad back, and it's not how I remembered it at all. I had a really different view of it. I think lots of the things I now notice, I didn't even notice were in the film at all. It was like, oh,
like what?
I think it just maybe as a teenager, I was like, well, I agree. You should get your dad back. I didn't even think about it being two countries. I think maybe as a kid, you're like going, where's the goodies and the baddies? Whatever that means, because you don't know anything. And you're just like, well, I'm supposed to like these people, so I will. And there's some weird, like, pro Ronald Reagan speeches in this film as well, which is bizarre.
They say about, the guy in defense before was the peanut farmer, don't they say? But now we've got a guy who loves America. There's a line, something like that.
They don't call him Ronnie Reagan for nothing. That's it.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
That hasn't aged well. Yeah. So, gosh, I don't think I've ever gone back to a film and watched it in such a different way before. Certainly, maybe Surviving the Game. But apart from that,
Surviving the Game probably. It was a weird one for me. When I started watching it, I got about half an hour in and I thought, why has Pete Blaster suggested we watch this one? Normally I could find something and go, oh, okay, I get it. But this time I was like, why? Why this one?
In some ways, it was just curiosity of what it was like. Because back in the day, a lot of people liked this film a lot. When I tweeted to say we were watching it, people were like, oh, I love that film. I used to love that film. And I think I did, but I don't really remember it that well. And I think just the Karate Kid parallel, because it's been mentioned so much in Cobra Kai, it's kind of back in the zeitgeist. It was kind of like, but now I kind of think they did it I thought it was like, oh, yes, they've just picked another film. I think they've literally gone, let's mention the film that tried to capture the Karate Kid magic, but with planes.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were kind of leaning into. So, yeah.
It was a weird mishmash, really.
But did you notice someone from one of the TV shows we'd watched back in the day appearing very briefly at the end?
No, go on.
At their kind of court-martial hearing.
Yeah.
It was Colonel Decker.
Really?
From the A-Team. The guy who says, you're in lots of trouble. Oh, never mind.
Yes.
Was Colonel Decker.
Okay. That's why I did recognize him. I couldn't place him. I was trying to. I just thought, I don't know where he's from. Oh, wow. Okay. Because the A-Team was, what, a couple of years later?
No, started in 84, I think.
84, 85, right, yeah.
So not dissimilar time, I guess.
So his kind of busy decade of doing things.
Yeah. The casting person didn't have to do that much. They're like, right, we need a guy to be military, shouts a lot. Oh, Louis Gossett Jr. from Officer and Gentleman. Anyone? All right, what else? You need a military general. Oh, the guy who plays Decker. There's quite a lot of like. We need two kids that are like in gangs. Two of the kids from Karate Kid. That'll do. It does feel like a cut and paste kind of casting decisions.
Well, you get people caught in certain roles, though, don't you? Like now, there's a few years ago when like 24 was on. There was a guy that always played Secret Service agents with red hair. You've seen him in tons of films. But before that, he was always playing like generals. And then after 24, he was always playing generals.
Yeah, I know exactly the guy you mean. He was in Under Siege, and he was always in the room. Yeah.
It's just always senior military figures, and he's always there. And it's just it's like, oh, okay. Yep, that guy again, and he just over and over. You're like, okay, I see.
And I guess in an ensemble cast, sometimes you just go, if we cast this person, we don't have to explain who they are. we could just bring them into a scene and you'll just get it. And that is true of certain actors.
Yes.
That is, yeah.
The actor is called Glenn Morshower, and yes, he plays military figures. You look at marshals, special agents, general,
he is
sergeant major.
He is so good in 24, and I remember being like, "That's the guy who's in all the military scenes."
Yeah, he's a senator at one point. I'm just looking down his IMDb now. General Sam Lane in Supergirl, of course, in 2015-16. As recently as that.
Okay.
That dude is in everything, and General Jacobs in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's nothing Glenn can't do. He's a ledge, absolute ledge.
There's nothing in the military that Glenn can't do.
Or any kind of figure of authority.
Any authority figure, that's fair enough. I'd love to have an authoritative face.
Yeah, but they just did the same here. They were like, who could we put in as that guy? Oh, get Decker. What's his name? I don't know. Just go and find out. Put him in Iron Eagle. Yeah, right then. So I think that's what they did here.
Yeah, you might well.
I wonder if they wanted to get Jason Gedrick back and do like a Top Gun thing, he's actually joined the military and maybe he's not doing so well. Maybe he needs some of that chappy magic to help him. I'm
going to go on IMDb now because I'm very interested in what the plot of the follow-on films were, because if I do this, it means we don't have to watch them.
But he's not in it, so I'm thinking that maybe they wanted him to come back and do that kind of a thing where he was still struggling.
The actor went on to do Born on the 4th of July, I think, after this. So a little bit more, could argue, a slightly more credible film.
Mm-hmm.
So rescue mission to get his father in the first one. We know that. Okay, so what's the second Iron Eagle? Iron Eagle 2, so 2 years later. General Chappie Sinclair assembles a joint US-Soviet strike team to take out a rogue Middle Eastern nuclear base.
Middle East again. There you go.
Possibly no kids in that, just him and some action drama romance, according to that one. That one's a PG.
Uh-huh.
Iron Eagle 3. Hang on a second. This is great podcasting right now. Iron Eagle 3 doesn't come up. Hang on a second.
It is there, but it's got a different name.
Aces. It's called Aces, Iron Eagle 3.
Yeah, there you
go. Chappie discovers a drug smuggling scheme at his own airbase, and he decides to fly there in a biplane, in ancient airplanes, to free some villagers in Peru.
He's like the Rambo figure, isn't he? Going around doing different missions.
Or it's like the really weird episodes of Hawaii Five-0 where they just go off and do something weird. And then the fourth one...
Go on.
When Chappie Sinclair is saddled with a bunch of misfits and delinquents for his flight school, he turns to his protege, Doug Masters, to assist him in sharpening them up.
However...
Is it the actual actor? It's not him, is it?
No, it's Jason Cadeau. Or Cadeau comes back.
Jason
Cadeau, I think he is.
Oh.
He's done all sorts of things. A lot of TV work.
He was in Total Recall 2070. What is that? What on earth is Total Recall 2070 from 1999?
No idea.
It's a TV series.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
TV series.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Wow. Anyway, this shows how much there is to talk about in this movie, that we're talking about other things.
And the sequel. So they kept Chappie in and they sent Chappie on different adventures, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
That they just kept taking him.
And I get the feeling the third one, they thought we've gone a bit too far here. He's in Peru in an old plane.
In a biplane.
Let's get the old director back and let's put it back with misfit kids for one last chance. Yeah.
Yeah. An odd. I think we basically run out of things to talk about in this film. Let's give it a score, Pete.
Enough with the yak. What is your score?
Shall I go first?
Go on. Seeing as you hadn't seen it before and you're coming to this completely fresh, then
okay.
Why don't you?
So, if I had watched this as a teenager, I would have loved it. You don't think about things to the certain degree that we do now. You're not focusing on that kind of stuff. You're not looking at it from a structural, even a character point of view. All you want is a cool adventure with planes and dogfights and explosions and, the bad guys get taken out. That's what you want. So as a teenager, I would have loved this kind of film because there's lots of flying planes and that kind of stuff and brilliant awesome. As a much older man...
You're Chappie now, I guess, and I was watching it when I was Doug.
Yeah, as an older man, not quite as old as Chappie, or nowhere near as bald, I struggled with it. I thought it was too long. I thought it was massively unrealistic, but obviously I had to kind of keep forgetting about that sort of stuff and just remind myself what kind of film it was and who the audience would have been for this. It's very much, weirdly, a family film, oddly, despite the kind of brutality and the number of people who actually die. It's very much a family film, which seems odd to say, but, you know, it's true. Yeah, just a really weird film. If you hadn't have suggested this, there's no way I would have watched this film. I would have watched the first 10 minutes and then just turned it off and gone, no, that's enough. You know, there were times where I admit to having watched this film and going, let's just have a quick look on Twitter, see what's going on. And then I'd glance back and then, a bit of action. All right, put my phone down. I struggled to get to the end of this film at times, but if we weren't reviewing it, I would have stopped.
It's very unprofessional.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually going to give this 1 out of 5.
Whoa!
I just think, you know, if I was being generous, but then I think about a 2-bag film, and I'm like, yeah, it's not. It's just, it's a 1 out of 5 for me. Go on, Pete.
You're gonna really upset Chris Hurst.
Sorry, Chris.
He might hunt you down in a plane. That could happen. It's a difficult one. I went into this with rose-coloured glasses, and I remember really liking it. Like I say, I bought it on VHS. There must have been a reason. But I agree with you about most of the things you said, and there are things about it now that doesn't really hold up. And there are other 80s films that do manage to hold up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use Karate Kid as an example because it is in similar territory, and that film still works, whereas there's more in this to probably go, what? About than to go, ooh, about. So, yeah, and it throws so much at you with so many characters, a ridiculous amount of exposition, and it tries to make you kind of buy into this group of friends, but you don't really see them on screen long enough to really get it, which does make it a little bit bitty. But having said that, I'm going to, you know, I'm building up an extra bag here, and that bag contains Louis Gossett Jr. and the song "One Vision" by Queen. The combination of his acting prowess and his screen presence, and one of the, you know, great
his dancing
rock, his dance. It's an inspiration to us all.
Yep.
One of the bands that's done the greatest rock soundtracks of all time, and one song in this film. That combination is worth a bag on its own, along with a little bit of nostalgia sprinkled on top. So I'm going to give it 2 bags of action out of 5.
Fair enough. It was not great. I'll say that. Not great.
That may be the lowest combined score of a film we've watched, done a full episode on, maybe? I think it is. Because I'm usually... I don't know. Surviving the Game, I know you didn't like. I very strongly remember you not liking that film.
We still managed to talk a lot more about that one. But
we did.
There you go. Yeah. So, have you seen Iron Eagle? If so, get in touch and let us know. Have you seen the sequels? I'm sure they're not worth seeing, but if you think they are, let us know.
I might watch them all over Christmas, you know.
Well, if you're glutton for punishment, you know, you're so bored or full of turkey you can't move, go for it. So, have you seen any of the films? Get in touch and let us know. You can email us. You can come and talk to us on the Facebook group. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this, and also check out our YouTube channel. We have new episodes coming out every week. We have 5-minute reviews on there for other films that we've watched, apart from our sort of regular monthly episodes. You can subscribe to that channel too. If you like what you do, you can support us on Ko-fi and buy us a coffee on there. And yeah, this will be the last episode for 2020, but we'll be back next year with more bags and more action.
And less COVID.
That's right. Okay, Pete, wrap us up.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
if
Christmas.
Indeed you still are. Good night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.